Well, today I'm going to go ahead and take out the transmission, and while I'm at it I might as well change the exhaust. I bought the 4-inch exhaust for the stainless steel. Since many of the cross members here are also, if you take the transmission out, you're going to have a pretty good access to the entire exhaust system. So might as well just knock all that out at once. And step one, of course, is to disconnect the battery. The way that I'm going to do it is, take the starter on off. By the way, that ear that holds the connection that holds the main power to the starter is very fragile. So whenever I take the starter on out, I just leave the connection still on and just connect the bolts and just tie the starter on up. That'll keep you from having to go on out and buy some solenoid or a new starter on that when you take it apart. And remove all the cross members here that are required. This is a 4-wheel drive. Going to have to take the transfer case on off. And this is all I'm going to do is just disconnect the drive shaft right here. Just tie that on up. And this is a manual transmission, so there's a spot, and I think I'll take a quick little video of how to get the shifter on off. I think everything from that point on is pretty simple, so I don't know if I'll really need to take any video of that at all, but maybe I will. It just depends on how things go. I had this transmission on out before for another reason, and so it's quite heavy. That transmission alone weighs something on the order of like 200, I think it's like 260 pounds, and so it's you definitely want to have a good buddy if you ever take that thing out yourself. I'll probably take some pictures or video of it when I'm taking it on out, just to give you some sort of a sense on how the difficulty. It really isn't all that bad. And while I'm at it here, you can see how tight everything is with that exhaust. If you do put a new exhaust on, you want to get that alignment pretty darn close to where it's at, because you can see there's not a whole lot of room between the transmission housing and the frame, so you need to keep that gap there as close as you can to what it is right now. And since I'm putting a 4-inch exhaust, it's going to even get a little bit tighter right there. Okay, I think that's it for this part. Next, maybe I'll see a video of me with a transmission jack next. We'll see. A quick little update on where I'm at. I just took off the transfer case, and you can see there's 6 bolts there. It slides out pretty well. Of course, I took out the drive shaft to the rear, and the drive shaft is completely removed for the front. There's a little shift fork. You can see that right about there. There's just a little nut that you have to take off, and there's a little vent line that goes to the transmission. So it was rather simple so far. And there's one wire harness connection that goes to the transfer case, and that's of course for what gear you're shifted in for the 4-wheel drive. And this is the first time I've actually used the transmission jack, and I tell you, after years of trying to use a regular jack, I finally broke down, and it's so effortless with this. You can adjust the plate here, both this way as well as this way. So between the height and the low profile, chaining it down, trying to use a fuller jack to do it otherwise, it's a real treat. I should have bought one years ago. So the next step is just to continue taking that transmission apart, and I think on the top I'll probably start with I'll take a photo or a video of how to take the shifter off inside the truck, which is pretty straightforward, by the way. And I think that's it for right now as far as this goes for the update. I have the the 4 screws off, and you can see they're right here in the far corner. Now you'll see this white thing hanging on, and there's a metal clip that holds this white thing to your piece here, I guess the black trim panel. And I think the easiest thing to do is actually take a screwdriver, and if I can do this right while holding the camera, is to just pop that on off. And there you go. And you'll have a tab on each of the 4 corners. Do that, and that'll actually separate the two here. So I'll put this on pause for a moment. Right. So you can see that the pieces are separated, and there are torque spit screws here that'll actually remove the shift lever from the transmission, I guess shift fork stub here, whatever you want to call it. But you really need to remove this, because if you don't take this off, there's not a whole lot of clearance to get that transmission dropped through, with this because of the height of the transmission. You have to drop the transmission way down in order to get that transmission out from and separate it from the engine. The easiest thing to do, and I learned this the hard way, is to remove these 6 cap head screws and take this shift piece on out. Then you won't have any issues whatsoever when you try to slide that transmission on out, because you can just slide it back now without having to worry about having to shift it down and then try to slide it back, which is a real bummer. It doesn't work that way. When this thing's halfway on out and you're trying to then remove this plate right here with the 6 bolts, it's a real headache. So do yourself a favor, remove it right now, and you'll save yourself a whole lot of trouble down the road. And it's pretty easy, actually, just the torque bits, and then stick a rag down the hole, and that should be it. In fact, if you do any transmission work, this is the easiest place to put the fluid in too, because it goes right into the transmission. So that's it. It looks like with the shifter off, you can see, I don't know if you can see it down there. Guess not. There's a little hub that the shifter ball sits in, and to put it back together, it's no big deal. It's just those 6 bolts. You just stick the shifter in right into the little socket down there, and it's very straightforward. So I highly recommend to do that, and just stuff something down in there to keep stuff from falling down. And definitely, just put your bolts off to the side. You don't want to accidentally drop those things in there. So, that's the best thing to do. So that's it for getting the shifter on out. Okay, got the transmission off. You can see I've got the starter over there tied on up. Got the tranny lines there zip tied with some baggies on them just to keep everything clean. Now all I have to do is just go ahead and remove that pressure plate, and it looks like they're 1/2 inch bolts, I should say 1/2 inch socket. So I think it's pretty good to go for right now, and I'm probably about 4 hours into the job. There wasn't really any big problem with anything. It's just a matter of getting everything loose and taking it apart. And you can see the transmission is right here behind me on the transmission jack, and just trying to keep that out of the way. And I'll leave it there while I do this whole job. I can, I don't see really any issue with the rear main seal. Everything looks pretty darn good. So that's pretty much it. Okay, just have one quick little shot of the flywheel. Again, it looks like it's in pretty good shape. If I take a close-up here, which is kind of hard to see, you can even see some of the machining marks. So there seems to be very little wear on this flywheel. Not enough for me to justify taking it on out and getting it machined again. So like I say, I think the previous owner just had some clutch work done to it, and with that knowledge and looking at this, I think I'm okay. So I'm gonna I think I'm not going to do anything with this flywheel. As long as I'm at it now, I got a great view to take out the exhaust, which is another thing I'm going to work on, and do that upgrade. So since I've got really good access to everything, and that's it. Okay, we got the clutch kit here. This is a Southbend 1939DF. This is supposed to be good to like 400 horsepower, and that's about the amount of horsepower that I have theoretically on the truck with that SCT Tune in it. So, what's all included in the kit? Well, you can see you got the clutch and the pressure plate. Yeah, that is their bushing, their bearing replacement. Of course, their clutch alignment, and I guess that's about it. So, at this point, you may want to go ahead and replace that pilot bearing. I don't think that this is the one I really want to use. I use a regular pilot bearing, and but other than that, it does look pretty darn good. It's kind of nice. They have everything marked, pressure plate side. I'm guessing that's of course the clutch side or the flywheel side. The springs on here look a little bit different. You got 2 springs here. I'm not sure what these guys are right here. I'm guessing there are special types of springs. That in comparison to the old clutch, and I'm not really sure, the guy I bought the truck from had I think he said he had some clutch work done on it. It doesn't really look too bad. In fact, it looks pretty darn good. You got some huge springs here though. Huge springs. And if you look at even the pressure plate side here, there's really no bluing. I still see the machine marks in it, so it's probably very few miles on this thing. But nonetheless, when you go after a tune that boosts the number of the torque and horsepower quite substantially, the OEM clutch just can't hold it. So it's just time for an upgrade, and so we'll see how this goes together. But nonetheless, it doesn't look too bad. And I'm not even going to mess with the flywheel. Looking at the flywheel, it also looks like it's in really good shape. So I'm not going to send it out for machining. I'm just going to bolt up the new pressure plate and clutch to it, and then put it back together. So that's it. Well, I just installed the flywheel, the clutch disc, and the pressure plate. Everything went together pretty well. I actually, you can see this. I went ahead and machined the flywheel anyway, since I've got it all apart. Might as well do a good job. So far, it's went together pretty well. The flywheel bolts to the crank were 89 foot-pounds, and the pressure plate bolts were surprisingly only 21 foot-pounds. And of course, this is for the 7.3 liter with the Southbend clutch and pressure plate. I think that's pretty much it for right now. Next step is to get the transmission on in.